Hi.
Hello.
Welcome to another edition of karaoke, carpool karaoke.
Well, actually, yeah, we do have a guitar back here.
That's right.
Here, this should be the still shot.
What's a good Christmas song?
Oh, whatever it is.
Merry Christmas, go to hell.
Whatever it is, I'll butcher it.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a special guest today. Tim Bradstreet, and I love that we have a special guest for a movie like this.
Why not? I mean, what the heck? It's Christmas.
Yeah.
That's how our show is. It's not Star Wars or Doctor Strange or anything like that.
That would make
Except for that guy.
It would make sense for Tim to be here to review for like a special edition thing.
Why him? The movie with the extended sequence on using a bidet.
It did need me, actually, because I can talk about Caitlin, who used to go out with James Franco. And
Yeah.
I used to know
exactly like this.
I know this gal. Probably. I used to know this gal, Caitlin. She was great. She's an actress, and she used to go out with James for a long time. And then she went out with my buddy, Thomas Jane, and she's so cool. But when I found out her dad was Romero in Escape from New York, I literally wouldn't leave her alone for months. No, it was cool, though. It was really cool. She's a great chick.
I always have trouble explaining what I do whenever I've met, like, somebody's parents. I mean, granted, it was never anything like in this fucking movie. There weren't moose balls that came with her, but it was always hard explaining what I do without sounding like I'm an internet pornographer.
It's true. I'm still trying to figure out, I think, had they had a bit of a smell-orama there, and we could actually smell the moose.
Ooh, yeah.
It would have been
I mean,
like Will Wheaton's Barf Fest. And,
it would have been...
Stand By Me.
Well, because it was soaking in its own urine.
It's just so foul. And then there's this one camera shot where you see the moose at an angle where you also see the bottom of the cage.
Yeah.
And there's all this like kind of gross, just kind of like sediment on the bottom, like in piles. And it's just...
The toilet
I don't want to know
scene,
what that
too.
is.
Bryan Cranston farting on a toilet.
Bryan Cranston on the toilet, man. That
actually,
will go down in history.
Actually, I did kind of like that scene.
And you know what? No one really looks... You never expect it, but Bryan Cranston looked really good on the toilet. I thought he's toned up.
I mean, we've been used to seeing his legs and tidy whities.
That's right. That's true.
No, I think that scene in most movies would have been... I would have hated it, absolutely, but since it was Cranston... I think I was just kind of like, okay, it's Cranston doing this.
The only thing that honestly keeps this movie from being one of the worst I've seen this year is the term, well, since it was Cranston.
Yeah, exactly. Like, without Cranston and James Franco.
Honestly,
without those two, this movie would have been horrendous.
The cast really is one of the strong points of the film. No question.
It's the only thing... I really didn't care that much for this movie, but I won't go so far as to say that I hated it. I won't go so far as to say I was having a miserable shitbag time sitting there watching it or anything like that.
No, we've definitely had worse times watching it.
Oh, yeah. I had an easier time sitting through this than I did, like, Daddy's Home from last Christmas.
Oh, God! Here's the thing. You're going to see... When this film comes out, I predict... There's going to be 15, 16-year-old kids everywhere getting the Franco tats. The Franco tats. Some of them are prison tats. They're kind of not too well done, but mixed with very good tats, I think it makes for a legit tattoo person. Person with tattoos, in other words.
The Happy Holidays card on the tattooed on the back.
That's just silly fun.
Yeah.
Really, I thought it was ridiculous, right? It's like it's ridiculous, but then the Happy Holidays makes it more ridiculous somehow. It's like,
fuck, well, I fucked that up. If this movie was Smell-O-Vision, it would go right on... It would be a better use of that than the last thing I saw, which was Spy Kids 4, with the robot farts.
Oh.
And there was one part in that movie where a character is picking their nose or something like that, and then the little ding went off, and I'm sitting there like, really? Okay. I guess that's what the inside of her nose smells like. Cardboard.
Good times, yeah. Yeah, that's the kind of thing that keeps me in the seats, really.
Yeah.
I saved that card.
It's that kind of attention to detail that I enjoy in a film, but rarely get, actually.
That's why we had a great time at this movie. I mean, what did you guys think of this?
What would be your rating system? Would it be a 5-star? Or a...
Typically what we say is like, sometimes we'll say like, oh, this is worth going out to the theater to see, or maybe this is worth a matinee or a Netflix or a rental, or just skipping it entirely.
I think dates would have a really good time with this movie because it's just, there's nothing to feel depressed. I mean,
No,
it's the kind of
it's-
movie that just make you walk out in a good mood. I think
It's
endearing to a degree,
Yeah,
and
it's a little childish, but
a little.
that's just the character.
This movie has a
characters-
scene
Well,
in
okay,
which a
moose
moose
balls,
soaked
yeah.
in urine, and that's the climax. This movie's big engagement has them being shit on by
I
birds.
thought it was the cameo at the end.
Oh, the Kiss cameo?
Spoilers.
We
spoilers. We spoil
we
everything.
spoil-
Like Kisses.
two members of Kiss are in
I
this.
thought, and it's weird too because I saw Paul Stanley not too long ago in makeup, and he looked really good. He looked really tired. He looked. I mean, he was kind of droopy,
Yeah.
which I hate to see. You hate to see your icons
Those
go there.
facelifts are starting to melt. Yeah.
That could be part of the
Yeah.
problem is these do.
Yeah.
I've met a few of them because they've been to conventions that we've done, and Kiss is Nick Foster, who does some stuff. It's been in some movies on our site. That's like his favorite band. So every time I'm at a con, I get a picture of myself with them to send to Nick because that's my
you have
dream to meet all members of Kiss
the-
before Nick gets a chance.
The time I met Gene, he was at my table at San Diego Comic Con, and he said something like, "You're the Punisher artist," and I was like, yeah, and then I was like, "Fuck, it's Gene Simmons." I mean, are you kidding me? I was a crazy Kiss fan.
Yeah.
So I asked him if I could have a picture with him. He said, "Sure." And we took a picture, and he goes, $10.
Nice.
And he was serious.
Yeah.
I thought he was kidding. He was serious, and so I gave him his $10.
I'd be
I
like,
mean, I
I already
would've
took
said-
the picture. Fuck you.
I would have said keep it, or no, it wasn't. It was my friend that shot the picture, so he probably wasn't serious. But out of deference to Gene,
Well, and Gene's always looking for that $10. Always.
Gene,
Yeah.
it's why he's one of the richest men in
Yeah.
what he does.
He's
Crazy.
one of the only ones of the band that I haven't met.
Really? You haven't met Gene?
No. Peter Criss. I don't know as much about him as Nick does, or that you guys would. But one of the guys who was with him in the '80s.
Not one of the original members.
Vinnie
No.
Vincent.
What?
Vinnie Vincent.
Yeah, I think that was
He
it.
would have been the replacement for Ace,
Yeah,
the first one.
I think that was it. It was a con in. That was Days of the Dead in Chicago, I think.
Wow, that's going back. And Vinny, remember Vinny's Kiss makeup? He had the onk
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of
Oh,
look,
okay.
and he was really kind of creepy looking.
Yeah.
Since I don't listen to him a lot, the most I know is the movie Kiss Meets Phantom of the Park.
That's a classic.
Oh yeah,
When I think, was that 1978?
yeah.
Okay, so I was 11, and I was crazy for Kiss.
Mm-hmm.
Are you kidding me? And when that came on, we were like glued to the set. We could
Yeah.
not believe a Kiss was on TV. Holy crap! Mm-hmm. And but obviously that movie does not hold up for anyone older than 12, really. But
is
that's
it-
also
is
one of
it
the charms about it.
Ace Frehley dubbed in that movie too.
One of them is.
think he-
yeah,
I think it's Ace.
one of
Yeah.
them is has a stunt double that's obviously a black man at one point.
Well, I heard that like Ace was really like drugged out, like just.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a big pain around that time, and didn't show up, didn't know his lines, didn't do anything. He just would just be plowed, just hired, and I couldn't even tell you how many kites. Well, rock and roll money, you can get pretty high.
Higher than giraffe pussy.
I'm gonna go with that.
Yeah.
I think my first thought when I saw that movie, Kiss Meets Phantom of the Park, was this is the same theme park from National Lampoon's Vacation. I want to think they're both in the
Little
same
Wally
universe.
Now, see,
Yeah.
I had that thought at first, but just because of like I don't know, it was like one of the shots, and I went.
Yeah.
It reminded me of it. Was
Oh,
it
it's
really
not.
the park?
Oh, yeah, it is. It's like the same park. I forget which one it is. It's one
Sorry,
of them.
folks.
It's one of them
Park's
that Zach.
closed.
It's park's closed. The moves out front should have told you. It's one of the parks that Zach Lavoie worked at for a while. But yeah, it was a couple of like the exterior shots of the roller coasters where I was like, oh, I know that one. That's the second giant roller coaster the Griswolds went on.
Was it Kings Island?
No, it
No.
wasn't. It was.
They have the racers.
Crap,
That's
I
been
can't-
in a movie. I can't remember which one it was though.
Yeah.
What was the movie in roller? What was the park in Roller Coaster?
Fuck.
Do I have to
don't
call
know.
Timothy Bottoms?
Yes.
Let's see. Is George Siegel awake yet?
I will talk about
We'll call
That's My
George.
Bush for hours.
What? Your Bush? What?
Remember That's My Bush, Timothy Bottoms, where he was
Yes.
George W. Bush on
Yes.
that sitcom?
That is
right.
I enjoyed that. I liked that show. All 6
Timothy
episodes of it. No, this is the kind of movie where you pretty much,
It's
if you've
exactly
seen the
what you
trailer,
expect.
you know what you're in for with this. It's the kind of movie that I think they do about once a year.
Yeah, it's
I
Follow
thought it
the
was
Bride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all those movies. Dave and I were talking like we've seen this movie 100 times. You all have seen this movie 100 times, but it's and this is only my opinion. It was somehow James Franco's just endearing. It's like even as a guy, I can't hate the guy. You know, it's like usually you're like, oh, that guy's a fag, man. No, James is just kind of fun. And then those people came in late in the theater, and I said something like, hey, Seth Rogen isn't in this one. It looked like a crowd that was like, why are they here? They should be here for like whatever the next Seth Rogen movie is.
Well, we snuck in a bunch of candy
Freaks
to
and
go
Geeks.
see this, so we look like we just got blitzed in the car and then decided to go.
None of us ate dinner, so we were crammed. I've lost a bunch of weight. I look like my old self walking in there, so it didn't fool. I mean, nobody was.
Oh, they
it
don't
fooled
care.
everybody.
in
Puffy
there.
in weird spots, yeah. I thought it was better than I expected. I didn't think it was a bad movie.
I didn't
wasn't
think it was good.
a good movie, but
My biggest issue with this movie, it isn't the actors. One of the things I will say this: what I like about the movie is Bryan Cranston and James Franco. What I like is that James Franco is never really playing a bad guy in this. He is just playing a guy who he says fuck a lot. He pretty much he has no filter. He just says whatever the hell he wants. But there's no point in the movie where he's a bad guy. Like, he is a guy who obviously does love this girl. And
Were you waiting for the other shoe to drop though?
No,
like,
no,
as
I
looked
wasn't,
at
but
James, I was like, is there going to be a dark side to this? You know?
Oh, yeah, there was one part where I thought it might go somewhere like that, and that was when Keegan-Michael Key was weirdly leering around the corner at dinner at one point. I'm like, okay, are we going to have some weird plot twist where one of them's a villain? Honestly, there are no villains in this.
Was that-
And I did enjoy that about the movie.
Was that Kato?
Yes, yeah.
What was the name of the movie?
Gustav?
Gustav, yeah.
That guy was great. In fact, I would say that character
Keegan-Michael Key's
took it a
fun.
step above a lot of those movies because it was just so well done. I mean, he played that character to the hilt, man. It was great. But you know, I mean, I mean, you don't have to be Ridley Scott to do a movie like this. You can. I mean, as long as
as
you can,
hilarious as that would be.
yeah. Well, he got close once, but when I say it. Say it. No, man. I mean, it was silly. You know, it was silly. It was not. I mean, there was a time like I would walk through the mall or walk through the movie theater, and I'd see a stand up for like dodgeball,
Yeah.
and I'd be like, "You gotta be kidding me!"
I liked
Am I
dodgeball.
really gonna see? But I was like that at the time.
Yeah.
I was just like too caught up in my own stuff, and not taking. I mean, I got to treat it like music now. Like I never begrudge anybody their music, even if I don't like it. Like
Yeah.
I'm like, I hate that, but I don't belittle it in front of them. Because
Yeah.
that's the kind of thing that'll, you know, come to blows a lot of times. I mean, I would. Somebody talking up my music and being shitty at it, I'd knock the crap out of them if I had to. I'm a little sophomoric sometimes. Goes with the territory.
No, for me, this was the kind of movie that if it was midnight or later and I was a little baked and I was cruising through Netflix and it was on Netflix, I would have no problem sitting there watching it, and I'd probably have a fine time watching it. I can't suggest
enough.
spending money and going to the theater to see it.
Yeah.
I can't suggest that.
That's a
by
date.
any
It's a date
means.
movie.
I
That's my opinion.
mean, well, I can't
None of the
imagine.
dates I've ever been on.
I can't imagine a scenario where I would be
You're a man of the cloth.
even high. I can't imagine I'd be sitting around watching this. I'd probably just go to sleep. Like,
You have
smokes
a
a pot and
different-
goes to sleep.
You have a different filter. You have a different kind of like divining rod for what you like in a film. This
Not
is-
necessarily.
But I don't think that like films like this, they don't really jump up into your like. You would never rate one of these kinds of films a best film of a year by any
No,
stretch
no.
of imagination.
Well, I mean, like,
But you have to go to it.
I would. Well, I mean, I would rate would rate them in terms of like, you know, if it's one of the best comedies of the year. Some of my favorite comedies are actually gross out movies like this.
Sure.
That movie Screwballs from '85.
By the way, I love Dodgeball.
I do too.
You can dodge
I
a
do
wrench.
love Dodgeball.
Dodgeball's great.
You
Yeah.
can dodge a ball.
I do love Dodgeball. There are a lot of gross out comedies that I like. The problem I had with this one,
Great one.
Bridesmaids, I didn't see.
As soon as the girls figured out that they should do a guys movie, like let's just be raunchy like the guys, then maybe we can, you know, try something new here, and it totally worked because everyone liked it. Girls liked it because it was pretty empowering, and guys liked it because it was fucking stupidly fun.
For the most part, I enjoy
Bridesmaids.
For the most part, I enjoy James Franco movies. I like Seth Rogen movies. I like a lot of the movies that they do. As far as the more raunchier stuff, last year I really enjoyed Trainwreck. This one,
Trainwreck was great. Yeah, I love that one.
this one was a movie that I wish didn't stop every now and then to just be a gross out movie because it was so random and it stayed around for so long. Like that scene on the toilet goes on a long time.
It's you might think Martin Brest directed this movie, and I'm not talking about a Midnight Run style of film, but what was the one he did after that where it was Brad Pitt, Mr. Where it's just long shot after long shot after, you know, camera stay, and it was very pretentious kind of film for a guy who's should know better, but he got kind of carte blanche on it, so he did the movie he wanted to, and I think Meet Joe Black is what it is.
That's it.
And Meet Joe Black's a good movie, but it'll like film goers today are much different. Kids, I think under 20, if you play, I mean, for the most part. Just of the general populace, they don't care about that stuff. They're like, they don't care about Steve McQueen, who's that? Do you know what I mean? And when I hear that, I'm like, are you kidding me? I want to kill you. But
someone goes, that guy who directed 12 Years a Slave.
They don't see any of that. I mean, they're just, I always say, and I used to get really mad at it, but I finally got to the point where I was like, listen, the good ones, people with a discerning eye are going to rise above that shit and discover their stuff on their own. So why try to turn them on when they're being resistant, you know? Because unless there's like staccato editing, I can't sit there and watch it. I'll fall asleep because it's so boring to watch a tracking shot that lasts more than 10 seconds.
Of comedy, of the sophomoric comedies like this, there are
better ones.
Well, no, there were also much worse ones this year. There was 50 Shades of Black, and there was a Medea Halloween and things like that. I mean, this movie, the chuckles that I got out of this movie would be like what Bryan Cranston was reacting to, or maybe some of the looks James Franco had. It would have been
between those two.
It would have been stuff in the dialogue. The movie had just
the actual gags they set up weren't by any means better than just the interactions between the actors. I think was the actual funny stuff,
and which is what this movie at its heart really should have been to make it at least funnier to me. But as it was, with every 5 minutes with a semen joke or the nuts on the kid's face, it felt like the kind of thing where they had a script and then someone came in and then just marked it with crayon to write.
That's right.
Write like a bunch of urine and shit jokes.
Give it to the whatever. What's the show? There's all these TV show, the cartoon shows like the foul ones. You know, like I want to say I keep wanting to say Major Dad. When I'm talking about Gerald McCraney. But some of those writers, you know, are always into that stuff. They're always like, hey, yeah, I'll write a crap joke, a fart joke. What, semen jokes? Bukkake? Are you kidding me? I'm like, is that really in one of these screwball comedies? I'm like, that's just kind of ill.
That's another thing. It's like, this is the kind of movie where two characters might be saying something funny, and then the movie just stops dead for 5 minutes to have a conversation about what bukkake is.
Well, 3 minutes. Seemed like 5 minutes.
I was timing it. It was 20 minutes.
Oh my god!
Well, and
it was half of this.
It was one of those jokes that would have been. The setup for it would have been a fine throwaway joke on its own. It really wouldn't have been that bad of a. It was like, oh, you get a little giggle, but having to come back to that and bring it up again, it was just like, well, that's not necessary.
That's not the one you want to circle back to.
Yeah, exactly.
And this movie did that a lot. It circles back to the worst jokes in the movie, whether it's the toilet joke, the moose urine, and I don't know. Like, a lot of that stuff wasn't working for me in this, because it was for me, it felt like it was just there to be gross, and that's it.
It almost seemed like it was a script that was like, okay, let's take this movie that made money at the box office, and let's kind of take all the major points out of this that work for us. Okay, it's the dad-daughter relationship, it's this, it's that. And they basically just make carbon copies of these things. It's I don't know that, like a screenwriter like that, we were talking about before the show, and I was like, well, at least he got paid.
Oh, sure,
I'm
yeah.
sure. But, he probably didn't get paid very much, and probably not as much as people think he got paid.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is.
Well, one of the writers on it.
But it's a carbon copy of,
No, this movie
it's not a
feels...
challenging script to write.
No, I mean, this movie feels like it was made because last year at Christmas, Daddy's Home did really well. Yeah. That's kind of what this feels like.
Studios need to have that kind of, they need to have that variety. So, it's there's not just action movies or whatever to see. You have to have an alternative, right?
Well, it's better than Collateral Beauty.
Well, the horrible thing is the way the studios do it is they do it almost like comics publishers, where they get a list of the films they want to get in production, and they basically just set deadlines for all of them, so they can release them on these dates that make sense to this pie chart and this pie graph and this audience, this test audience. It's like so ridiculous, because everything right now is it's about box office, it's about opening weekend, and it's the dumbest model ever created.
Well, and
it's the dumbest thing ever.
I've brought it up before too. I honestly feel like the past couple years, it seems like every year more and more movies come out every year.
Lord, yeah.
And I remember, when The Matrix came out, that was the main movie playing for 6 months.
Yeah.
Matrix was one of those, Sixth Sense around the same time that just kind of transcended everything, and reminded you of a movie like when Star Wars came out in 77.
Yeah.
And in 1978, you look up at the movie marquee and it says Star Wars held over for a 67th week, and you're like, it's been playing for over a year.
And you're gonna see that earlier and earlier in the year too, especially how you have months like January and February that are kind of they'll put whatever out, but meanwhile this year in February, like, you have Deadpool, which does gangbusters. You'll start seeing more and more of that earlier and earlier, and it's honestly it feels like it's also why a lot of big summer blockbusters, more of them bomb now, more so than you would kind of see.
Well, everyone's
in the
hedging
past.
their bets on big budget, 6-figure movies.
Yeah.
I mean, Marvel made the model for that.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you compete with that? I mean, you can't. I mean, if you lose, you'll lose big.
Yeah.
If you win, you win big. But if you lose your ass.
When
it's like if Cleopatra wouldn't have made any money, and the studio just would have went.
And like with Cleopatra, how it's simultaneously on the list of the biggest bombs, yet also on the same list of the top money makers of that year.
Yeah, exactly. As well as the filming, right? There were all these delays. It was almost like Apocalypse Now.
Yeah.
The things going on behind that film while it was in production, it was just hitting variety a lot.
You have movies like Batman v Superman that have to reach $1 billion in order to consider
and
itself.
that movie's one of the highest grossing movies of all time, but still not that much of a success compared to what it probably should have made.
Compared to what they wanted.
I never take box office seriously. It's bullshit, is what it is.
Well,
it's tickets sold. If you want to rate it, like Ben-Hur probably sold more tickets than Titanic.
Oh yeah,
easily.
I think Gone with
Titanic
the Wind
was the biggest grossing movie of all time.
Yeah.
Did they get unseated?
Avatar.
Okay, so it got unseated, but
wait, I think Force Awakens might have gone even past that.
Oh, yeah?
I think, maybe.
It's just, I haven't looked at an adjusted box office list in a while.
They were paying $2 for a ticket, $1.25 when I was a kid. So 75 cents in the early 60s.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
But the other thing is that movie probably played for...
Well, it had to.
3 or 4 months, and
how else are they going to see it?
They have to go out in some places.
They have to go out to the theater to see it, or else they don't see it.
But I think that's the telling thing, though. It's just like what we were talking about, electoral votes and all this stuff with the election.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's as simple as this. You vote, you count the votes, and the one with the most votes wins.
That's
How
crazy
about that?
talk.
Isn't that nuts? Jeez.
No, I agree, because I think in terms of ticket sales, I think Gone with the Wind is still number one.
Gone with the Wind would probably, have to be number one. Definitely.
I think it
Even
is.
today.
And this couldn't have had a big budget to it. This will have...
I'd say 30.
Only
because James Franco and Bryan Cranston got a budget.
They spent a lot of money on set design.
You could do that movie for 4. for $4 million.
Oh,
If
you could do that.
David
movie for
Dakota
less.
could do this movie in a weekend.
Oh, well, sure.
David Dakota has a big house that he uses in all of his movies.
Yeah.
So that's really what the most said in this movie was a big house.
We should be talking about a remake of People Under the Stairs then.
Yeah. Let's bring Everett McGill out of retirement.
Well, and that's something worthy of remaking. Find stuff that's kind of middle of the road. We're getting way off topic here. I'm sorry.
No,
we do
that's
all the
what we do.
time.
But it's it's like you can't. I don't know. It's just it gets to be the same old thing.
Did you go see Don't Breathe?
No.
That was, if you like People Under the Stairs, that was Stephen Lang as a blind guy
I love Stephen Lang.
terrorizing people in a house.
I mean, I'll watch
Really
Band of the
fucking
Hand
good.
because Stephen Lang.
Oh, fuck yeah.
I mean,
That's why I watched that Terra Nova show for the first few
directed
episodes.
by Paul Michael Glaser. Remember Band of the Hand? Yeah, Paul Michael Glaser. I think he's still a director. I think he's still
He
working.
is.
Yeah, he's you get a guy that's worked on you got a lot of those people running around right now, former actors and stuff like that. I think my favorite director right now amongst that kind of crew. And mostly these guys are coming out of cable, like Sopranos, directed Rome, did these kinds of things. Is Timothy Van Patten of all people?
I knew
He's
that's what you were
done
going to
some
say.
amazing work, and I really think he should graduate. He should be able to graduate to feature films because he's shown he can do the
Yeah.
job. And I think he's really more about. I mean, every episode that I've seen of these shows that he's directed are like a step above the other ones. And it's not just they gave him the best episode. He pays attention to little things like let's tweak the script right here. Let's let's do these things to give this movie. This could have a little TLC if we do the right things. We can make this special.
Yeah.
And that's how he thinks, and I love that. That's refreshing.
The first I ever heard of him was, remember The Master?
Yeah.
With Lee Van Cleef and him.
Shit,
I still have the tapes of that at home.
Wait, what was his salami?
Yeah.
It wasn't. Was that Tim Van Patten? It was Tim Van Patten with salami in The White Shadow, right?
Oh, in The White Shadow, yeah. I think so.
There's the correlation for that.
That's right. That's right, yeah.
Yeah, you got to have an old timer like me sitting in the front seat to go back to The White Shadow.
I saw that when they used to show that on Nick at Night.
But you brought up The Master. I mean, I just want to kiss you on the head. I remember when Lee Van Cleef passed away, I cut out his obituary. It's still hanging in my closet at my parents' house.
I've got
I love Lee.
I've got every 80s series where Lazenby came back to play James Bond. That, Return of the Man from Uncle.
Oh, I got. You know what? Funnily enough, I was at one of those Darabont dinners, the annual Frank Darabont dinners at Comic-Con. And we'd been doing it in the same place for a long time. So we knew all the servers. And this one gal who was just always really nice to us and took really good care of us, she comes over to me and she says, of course she came over to me because I'm the most gregarious guy sitting there. So she knows she can approach me. And I'm like, she says, what's the James Bond movie that isn't Sean Connery or Roger Moore? And I went, and this is kind of right before Daniel Craig. It's a little, no, I don't think it's that long ago. But anyway, she says, I said, George Lazenby? And she goes, I think he's sitting right over there.
No shit.
She goes, would you come over and, take a picture of me and him?
Holy shit.
And I said, sure, I'd love to. So I got up and I went over there with her, and she said, excuse me, are you Mr. Lazenby? And she's like, yeah. She goes, do you mind if my husband takes a picture? It was just
He is
so good.
one of my favorite actors. Like, this is rare that it's not one of the midnight screenings where I'm wearing a Lazenby shirt.
Well, you know, what really shocked me about that moment was I was also starstruck.
Yeah.
And he just looked like a fucking movie star.
Oh, yeah.
He just, his hair was like silver, just perfectly coiffed. He had kind of a tan, not like George Hamilton, but he had a bit of a tan.
Yeah.
And he just looked like, I'm like, why isn't this guy doing movies now? Because he just has a great kind of nobility in his face, and I don't know, man. He was a model and all kinds of stuff. When he was
His
younger,
kung fu movies from the 70s are some of my favorites. Stoner, Man from Hong Kong.
Stoner. So great. Man, that's what's great about being 13 years old. You can watch stuff like that, and it's infinitely entertaining, man. It's beautiful. And then, because you infinitely loved it as a child,
you hold on to
be
it.
40 years old and still love it. I love it.
Yeah.
It's great.
And still have my Lazenby collection. I still have my action figures, too.
He knew how to spell Lazenby when he was 5.
Oh, yeah.
It's not an easy name to spell because it's like hard to pronounce as well.
It's hard to talk a
Lazy
tattoo
boy?
artist into getting Lazenby tattooed on a 5-year-old's back.
He said, "Can I get that? Can I get that in Gaelic letters, please?"
I thought he went like
the newspaper
Gothic
font.
Well, any final thoughts about this before I have to go see Assassin's Creed.
Assassin's Creed. I kind of wish I was going to that with you because I wouldn't mind seeing Michael Fassbender and another Centurion. It seems like that's what it is. I mean, in a way.
Assassin's. Honestly, I don't know that.
director?
Oh,
Maybe it should have Neil Marshall.
I don't know.
Neil's awesome. He's a great dude. And
I don't know much about the video game. Honestly, I'm kind of walking into this one blind.
Oh, really? Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know much about the video game either, other than the
Yeah.
fact that when I first saw those games, I really gravitated towards it because I love historical stuff and period stuff in what I do with comics and with covers and stuff. I love the subject matter, and you can really be as, treat that stuff as kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Soberly.
Yeah.
That's not the word I'm looking for, but it'll do. Something that's watered down.
Yeah.
And versus something that's got a lot of balls to it. So
Moose balls.
moose balls.
Would you guys would probably call it, what would you call this? A rental?
I'd call it- I
matinee,
would-
or-
Absolutely.
I'd call it a Netflix.
Wait for
watch or
Netflix,
something like that.
and you'll have a ball, or take your girlfriend to it. And if you're 18, 19, 20, between
Yeah.
that's a good date.
It's one of those movies that it's exactly what the trailers and everything make it out to be.
If
Like,
you're
you've
sold
seen
on the
tra-
trailers, you'll like the movie. I mean,
Well, I thought and maybe even the trailer is funnier than the movie as a whole, but it's fine.
Who was the gal that played the daughter?
I'm not sure.
I
offhand.
kept
She
sitting
looks
there
familiar.
I thought
she
she was
looks
really
like
good.
Isla Fisher, but I know it's not her because she's not 21 years old.
I liked her a lot because she even though she had to play the woman at times and be a bit of a bitch.
But at the end, she stood
didn't
up
come
for
off
herself.
that way. She
too,
didn't come
yeah.
off that way. She came off really strong and independent and beautiful, and that
And
was,
by the
that was
end,
good.
I was like, yeah, I get why this relationship happened. I was like, yeah, okay, like this isn't unbelievable for
Well,
me.
there's that sub story too of he runs a printing business
Yeah.
in an age of the digital age, and so that's, I mean, that's kind of saying something underneath that. I think it's like, what are we going to do with comics at some point? What are we going to do with it when we thought they were going to go digital totally? Or whatever that is, print media of any kind.
The gag where the paper was their food was kind of like that. That was a good sight gag I laughed at. Like
It looked so horrible, like if you've ever eaten at a 5-star restaurant, or you watch, like any of those cooking shows
Yeah.
where it's presentation and all that stuff. That's what it was, but to the most crazy degree you could think of. Let's have, bear,
A smoked bear.
smoked bear,
Yeah.
smoked grizz. This is a
that
Kodiak.
they're
I
cutting
killed
up with
myself.
that he was using scissors to cut their paper food.
My favorite one was the sea urchin. It's like, how do you eat it? It's a sea urchin, like with a salad in it. So, but you're supposed to are you supposed to pick it up and eat it, or impale yourself, or you
Edible
scoop it out?
dirt
I mean,
was
yeah.
one of them.
It
Edible
was just
dirt.
silly stuff. But it was kind of funny.
That was a good
I get a good
sight
chuckle
gag.
out of those.
This movie, it got a chuckle out of me here and there, even though overall I can't say I was a huge fan of this movie. But I will say that
Not saying I was a huge fan either.
if you put this on Netflix and you're sold on it within the first few minutes, you'll enjoy it. Like it's not like it's a movie that radically changes tone.
It's
or anything.
innocuous, It's innocuous, and if you want to feel good, I mean, if you're like you just want to go see a movie that's not gonna. You don't want to. People sometimes just don't want too much, which is why we have a lot of cheeseburger out there.
Yeah.
Which is why they make movies like this, and that's fine. There's a place for a cheeseburger, but not every meal. Do you know what I mean? That's what we're talking about.
Look, this would be the better choice than seeing something like Collateral Beauty or
Well, and then what you were saying
like
last year
that.
about Daddy.
Daddy's Home.
Daddy's Home,
This
I'd much rather see a film like this than something a little more lowbrow, but more adult themed. Than see a silly kindergarten cop style movie.
we got Kindergarten Cop 2 on video now. We can watch
Is
that
Richard
instead.
Tyson in it?
I hope to God they bring back Mr. Chris.
I was talking to Phil Giano, and I said, it would be so great if you did a sequel to 12 O'Clock High or 3 O'Clock High.
I was thinking of that movie with that fist fight trailer with the Charlie Day and Ice Cube. I'm like, I almost leaned over and said to you, like, this is 3 O'Clock High or something.
Which I guarantee you is going to be a far better movie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
3 O'Clock High is a genius film. I'd love to see like a sequel to that because Casey's around and Richard Tyson hangs around the old or the New Beverly Theater a lot,
Nice.
and he does Q&As down there. And
Yeah.
I mean everybody's standing around. I mean they're all here. Let's get them. Let's get them together. Let's do a
Richard
movie.
Tyson's fucking great.
Yeah,
Like
his manager's an asshole.
Oh,
You heard it here.
I gotta go see
those
Assassin's
bridges.
Creed because God forbid I miss Assassin's Creed.
I know that's not a bridge burnt. He's an agent. He ain't gonna do anything for me. I'm my own agent. He can't do anything I can't do.